Okay, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's stream. So tonight on stream, we will be discussing two main stories. Number one is obviously Elon Musk buying up shares of Twitter. Now, sitting on the Twitter board, what does it mean? Are we going to be free on Twitter? Are conservatives finally going to be liberated on Twitter because of Elon Musk? Well, we'll talk about that. Is my stance on Elon Musk changing because of this? We'll talk about that. That's number one. And then number two, I would argue is more important and more relevant, but I'll do it second because I put it second in the title, is actually the re-election of Viktor Orban in Hungary. And Viktor Orban is obviously something of a Christian nationalist, right? He's been a big-time right-wing, pro-family, pro-God, anti-globalist world leader, much like what we kind of expected Trump to be in 2016, arguably maybe better, really the model of Eastern European national conservatism. Now, he was going in this past week facing his toughest re-election yet, and he's actually been re-elected by a landslide. What does it mean for American conservatives? Does it mean that kind of the globalist order is in retreat? We'll be talking about that. But first, like I said, I put it first in the title. So we will begin by talking about Elon Musk. Now, obviously, as many of you guys know, like a week or so ago, I made the Elon Musk video. Okay, you could call it the Elon Musk dissertation or whatever. But basically, I made a video basically questioning whether or not, and I'll get to your super chat in a second, whether or not conservatives should trust Elon Musk. By the way, before you continue, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. And my basic premise of that video was that, while it is true, obviously, that Elon Musk is sometimes sort of based, like he takes like these anti-woke stances, he'll do these certain things, he'll call out CNN or call out Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or something like that. My reminder was that Elon Musk is the inventor of Neuralink, right? Elon Musk is a transhumanist, and you kind of look at his technological agenda. Elon Musk is in complete lockstep with these agenda of Silicon Valley when it comes to things like transhumanism. I mean, this is a guy with Neuralink who literally wants to microchip your brain. Like, that's not even an exaggeration. I'm not even being a conspiracy theorist there. He's open, like his big project is literally a project to microchip people's brain. Neuralink, look it up, right? And on the other hand, what is he most known for? Like electric cars? Aren't those for hippies? Oh, but Elon Musk makes it cool, right? So my basic premise with Elon Musk, it has always been, but basically in that video was, Elon Musk in many ways is sort of a psyop to get conservatives to submit to the technocracy because, like I said, Elon Musk, he appeals to people like us. Like, we like Elon Musk, obviously. Many of our side likes Elon Musk. He's a likable guy. He's not really obnoxious. He's not as progressive as the rest of Silicon Valley. And so my argument in many ways was that basically what he exists to do, or what he's trying to do, is sell the technocracy to conservatives. Because obviously, here's a guy who is fully in support of AI. He wants to microchip you, like quite literally. His big thing is electric cars, but he makes it cool to conservatives. And basically my central argument was that, this is a guy who's in many ways trying to just sell the technological revolution to conservatives, to middle Americans, to kind of the people who generally otherwise would find Silicon Valley people to be repugnant. And obviously, I guess one of my main criticisms of Elon Musk also was that, yes, he often does take kind of these anti-woke stances, but oftentimes it's performative. Well, I can't really use the performative aspect anymore because I do have to give him credit that this is something of a move of action, but we'll talk about that. Anyways, I'm sure you've heard about this by now. And I'll discuss in a second whether or not my stance on Elon Musk actually changes because of this. I'll let you know right now. Actually, I think this is fully consistent with my stance on Elon Musk. Not really going to change my mind there. But anyways, for the past few weeks, he's kind of been talking about the issue of free speech on Twitter, which obviously I think we can all relate to. Donald Trump is banned on Twitter. I'm banned on Twitter. Many conservatives out there are banned on Twitter. It's an important issue. Elon Musk has been something of kind of like a free speech guy, right? He's kind of been a defender of free speech on the internet, an anti-cancel culture guy. Anyways, he was tweeting a lot about free speech on social media. I really wasn't listening because he does stuff like that a lot, but he actually took action here. First, he was talking a little bit, hey, maybe he's going to open his own alt tech platform. He actually did what I would argue is kind of the better thing, which is he just bought up basically a bunch of shares of Twitter. I think it was something like $17 billion or whatever. He buys such a big share of Twitter that he now sits on the Twitter board. So long story short, Elon Musk now owns a significant share of Twitter. Now, does that change my mind on Elon Musk? Well, a few things I will say is, number one, all the people freaking out, all the people absolutely saying, we're back, we're so back, we're all going to be liberated on Twitter. I would wait to see the money. Okay, that's the first thing I will say is, wait to see what actually happens. We have to see what's actually going to happen here, because it's like, yeah, he's hinted on Twitter about, liberating free speech, liberating Twitter for free speech, but he hasn't actually done anything. Let's see what he does now that he's actually on the board. And it's like, so for a few things I want to point out, the very first thing he teases is not, once he's on the board, of course, before he's talking a big game, right? Once he's on the board, the very first thing he teases is not, we're going to change the speech policies. We're going to kind of open it up to discussion on COVID or on election integrity, or just generally we're going to loosen the hate speech rules, quote unquote. No, the very first thing he does is he says, we're going to do an edit button, right? Which, yes, Twitter does need an edit button. It is very annoying to post a tweet with typos, and you can't even fix it. You have to delete the whole tweet. Yeah, that's true. But that's the first thing you go to, right? And other significant improvements. Now, other significant improvements obviously can mean free speech, but I'm just saying, let's kind of have a sort of degree of cautious skepticism here, because I think this is one of the big problems with the conservative movement. We basically soy jack every single time a celebrity does something based. We absolutely hop on it. And, considering my kind of take as to why I don't think Elon Musk is someone who should 100% be trusted because of his agenda when it comes to transhumanism, because of the fact that he quite literally wants to microchip you. Like, that's, again, not me going schizo mode. He wants to microchip you. Everyone says, oh, Bill Gates going to microchip me. Okay, Elon Musk literally has an open project to do it, right? It's not like this is his secret agenda or whatever. But anyways, he's teasing this. And it's like, let's see what happens. Before everyone jump, Elon Musk is our guy, this, that. Let's see what actually happens, okay? Because Elon Musk, he is sometimes performative. He doesn't always follow through. He's following through here. Again, let's see what happens. Let's wait to see. But I think that should be pointed out. I think the other thing to be pointed out is that, you look and again, this can all be optics. So maybe Elon Musk is playing the long game. Again, I'm saying, let's see what happens, because, the new Twitter CEO, who's a jerk, by the way, we don't like him. He's the one who banned me, okay? Even Jack Dorsey never banned me. This guy, I don't even know how to say this guy's name. Parag Agrawal, is that how you say it? Not a fan. But anyways, he is very optimistic. He's like, I'm excited to share we're appointing Elon Musk to our board. It became clear he'd bring great value to our board, this and that. Again, this can all be optics. Like, it can all just be optics. Like I said, Elon Musk is playing the long game. When the right time comes, he's going to pull the plug. He's going to really go for free speech on Twitter. Again, that's a possibility. I'm not saying it's not a possibility. What I'm saying is that really we ought to kind of approach this with a degree of cautious skepticism. We don't know what's going to happen. We hope that it does happen. We don't know that we're really going to get totally liberated on free speech when it comes to this stuff. And even so, even if Elon does manage to fix some of the speech policies, we have to also ask questions like, to what extent is that going to be, right? Because even if he loosens stuff on COVID, if he loosens kind of some of the speech restrictions on Twitter, it's meaningless if we cannot get old accounts reinstated, or we cannot make new accounts after we get banned, right? Because most of the cool conservatives have been banned on Twitter by this point. Donald Trump's been banned. I've been banned. That's really all that matters. But obviously, there's a lot of other people who've been banned from Twitter too. It's like, what's the point of just making better speech policies once you've banned everyone, and not letting everyone who's been arbitrarily banned for supposed guideline violations, in many cases didn't even violate the guidelines. But what's the point of, doing that if we can't get back on Twitter? Again, I'm just saying these are things to keep into mind, right? Take into account the fact that, we're going to want to have certain things like this, okay? And now, I'm not expecting that with Elon Musk, taking a part of Twitter. I'm not expecting Twitter to be perfect. Let me, make that clear. Obviously, what we ideally need is a platform where all constitutional free speech is protected, obviously. Do I think I'm not even expecting that of Elon Musk? I would be happy if Elon Musk returns us to 2017, 2016 era Twitter, but we have to see. We have to see if that actually happens, right? And so, here's what I will say, though. Here's what I'll say about it. Obviously, first and foremost, I think we have to see what happens. Okay, we have to see what happens. But is Elon, let's say Elon Musk does get my Twitter reinstated, okay? He reinstates Donald Trump. He does exactly what we hope he's going to do in terms of Twitter. Again, I don't think that's a guarantee. It's a possibility. Does that change my opinion on Elon Musk, and how do I think we should react to that? Well, I will admit, I will concede that if Elon Musk actually does kind of liberate Twitter as a platform, that is an objectively good thing. All right, obviously that's an objectively good thing. Regardless of what his intentions are, even if he wants to sell his transhumanism, Twitter is the new town square, right? It is a very important platform. Frankly, it's an irreplaceable platform, right? I love Truth Social. I love Gab. Other things have been tried that haven't been so great, but none of these things can replace the power, the influence, kind of just the existence, the presence that Twitter has, obviously. And so, yeah, undeniably, it is an objectively good thing if Elon Musk actually does improve Twitter. If he can get us back on Twitter, I will give him a lot of credit. It's an objectively good thing. I'm not going to boycott. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm not going back on Twitter because I still don't trust Elon Musk's motive. It's like, yeah, we have to just take the victory, right? We're not going to be like a jerk about that. I'm not going to like just not accept something that's objectively good, not accept a gift being handed to us. But at the same time, I will also say that I think it's still fully consistent with my view on Elon Musk, right? So what has been my take on Elon Musk? It's basically been, like I said, he is psyoping essentially to get conservatives, to get Christians, to get kind of middle Americans, kind of the white working class demographic, whatever. The people who find the Silicon Valley technocrats to be the worst people ever, to be absolutely pretentious, right? Like I said, I believe in many ways he exists, or he is trying to kind of sell the progressive agenda of Silicon Valley to people like us. If he does this, I don't think that my view on that has changed at all. I think that's fully consistent. Like in many ways, if he kind of vindicates himself among conservatives, he's become something of a conservative hero. I almost 100% guarantee you there's going to be a mass movement. Maybe not by you necessarily. I guarantee you a lot of kind of like mainstream conservatives out there will start buying Teslas. Okay, this is how it's going to start. Elon Musk is our guy. Right? Never mind the fact he wants to microchip you. He, kind of is on board with the technological agenda. He freed us on Twitter. He's our guy. Again, I'm not saying it's not a good thing that he freed us on Twitter. Of course, that's a good thing. Of course, that's something we should accept as a gift. We should see that as a good thing. We should take that. We should get back on Twitter if he gives us a chance. But at the same time, right? At the same time, what I see happening as a result of that is, guess what? They're going to buy a bunch of Teslas and whatnot. And it's like, I get it. When it comes to Neuralink, when it comes to the microchips, you may look at this now and say, Vince, I don't care if I like Elon Musk. That's ridiculous. I'm never going to fall on board with that. Most conservatives are never going to go on board with that. And my response to that is, are you sure? Like, are you actually sure that if over time, conservatives won't start to buy into the full-scale technological agenda that Elon Musk is starting to sell, right? Are you sure that eventually Elon Musk won't convince a bunch of Trump supporters to inject themselves with Neuralink, right? Put microchips into their brains. Are you actually sure of that? Because if we know one thing about the conservative movement, it's that we literally will move left on everything, right? Look at the issue of marriage, for instance. Look at gay marriage 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Would the concept that conservatives are now totally on board with same-sex marriage and totally on board with transgenderism, right? You look at where the movement has gone. Would that ever be possible? Would we ever even consider that to be a realistic 20 or 30 years ago? Even if you told Ronald Reagan, for instance, hey, come along, we're going to be, totally on support. The Republican Party is going to be totally in favor of same-sex marriage. Ronald Reagan would think what the heck has happened? Or what the heck has happened, right? He has a very whispery voice. So this is to say, obviously, I would not rule out the possibility of conservatives being so gullible that they fall for everything, because this is really an instance of the boy who cried wolf or whatever. We do this repeatedly. We do this all the time. And so in many ways, I would argue, yes, it is a good thing. It is something more than performative if Elon Musk kind of liberates us on Twitter. Of course, that's true. At the same time, I don't think that's inconsistent with my opinion that, hey, you still have to keep your eye on this guy. Hey, this is not a guy you still should entirely trust. I don't trust any transhumanist. I don't care if they're purportedly right-wing. I mean, I don't think transhumanism is a right-wing concept at all, but I don't care if they're kind of friendly to the right wing. I don't care if it's Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk. Zuckerberg is an alien. Elon Musk is kind of someone who's a cool Redditor. I don't care either way. Anyone who is a transhumanist, which, as a Christian, in many ways, I would argue satanic, but as a conservative too, it just rubs me the wrong way in all sorts of ways. It should rub you the wrong way as well. Basically the destruction of the human existence. We can't even conserve human nature as conservatives. Are you serious? Like I said, that anyone who really is trying to do that, anyone who's pushing this hardcore on the technological agenda, I have a hard time trusting still, and so even if he liberates us on Twitter, which is a good thing, I'll give Elon Musk a pass for a few months. We'll settle a truce or something for a little bit. But It doesn't mean I trust the guy. Does that mean I'm going to buy Teslas? Does that mean I'm like pro SpaceX or any of these things? No, and it really shouldn't mean the same thing for you either. So, anyways, I know I missed a super chat. I promised I'd get back to it. So, before we continue, I'm going to do this. You look like an Asian Elvis with those sideburns. Pretty based, if you ask me. Do you guys actually like it? It's literally just like I have not shaved these like sideburns, and so they're just getting long. Asian Elvis is true. So should we keep the sideburns? I usually like after I get a haircut, I'm good about actually like trimming them myself for like a few weeks, and then after that, I kind of tend to just let them go. So I don't know. Do you guys like the Asian Elvis haircut? It's true. It's true. Very epic, very epic. I'm never buying a Tesla. Give me a Chevy Monte Carlo from the 90s. I'm all good. Yeah, look, electric cars are still for hippies. Okay, that's the thing. See, I'm not gonna lie. I used to kind of want a Tesla, right? Before I really woke up to the technocracy. Before I really woke up to the true take on Silicon Valley and the truly epic takes on technology and all these things. Yeah, admittedly, I used to want a Tesla too, but are we going to keep in mind the fact that Teslas are like connected to the internet or something? They can literally be like manually shut off, or remotely shut off, I should say, like things like that. Like, electric cars are still a psyop. Electric cars are still not something to be trusted. But I guarantee you, right? I virtually guarantee you, if Elon, I bet you like already people are going to start buying Teslas. You're going to have, a Trump 2024 Tesla or something like that, and it's just out of appreciation for Elon Musk. I get it, but don't forget the fact, even if you freeze us on Twitter, don't forget the fact this guy is a technocrat. This guy is a progressive technocrat. He's fully on board with transhumanism. He's fully on board with the Silicon Valley push to, move away from just the traditional way of life to make AI the new reality of human existence, to make Neuralink the new reality of human existence, to make electric cars and like green energy or whatever, the new means of kind of transportation and all these things. Don't keep in mind that's still who Elon Musk is, okay? And I will admit, it is much better that he's actually doing, at least he's doing something, right? It's not just talk. He's not just pushing the Overton window for us or anything. No, he's actually, considering he follows through. We don't know he follows through, but if he does actually follow through, like, sure. It is a good thing that he actually is going to do something that helps us, and it does help us. I'm not going to deny it's a good thing. We should take it. We should accept it. But doesn't mean he's on our side. I'm still going to stand firm on that. And, people who disagree, well, when 15 years from now, when Elon Musk is a hero among the conservative movement and Neuralink 3.0 is out and everyone's like, yeah, I want that. I want to become smart or whatever. I'm just going to stand there like, I told you so. I told you so. And maybe I'll be the only non-Elon Musk conservative left. I will be the only conservative with my brain, my organic human brain still intact and driving a gas-powered car. I don't know, maybe. But if it gets to that point, don't look and say I didn't tell you so, because I guarantee that's virtually what's going to happen. The Elon Musk shilling, the Elon Musk just like hyping up. I get it. We're excited. People are excited, because I would argue Elon Musk, and I'll admit that, if he does something about Twitter, that's like more significant than what anyone else has done about big tech, right? Because, alt tech, I appreciate everyone that's tried to start an alt tech and has been honest about it, obviously not being a grifter about it. I'll take your super chats in a second, guys. I appreciate everyone who's tried to do legislation on it, tried to have positive Supreme Court rulings. I feel like the Republican Party hasn't done nearly enough on it. But if Elon Musk actually goes into Twitter itself and just fixes it, obviously that's a good thing. Okay. And that's probably better than even alt tech or anything like that. Okay. I'll totally admit that. But we'll see if that happens. But even so, I would still argue that doesn't make it okay, the fact that he's a transhumanist, okay? And that's something that's very important to me. I think it should be important to you too. Anyways, let me take your super chats really quick. Ethan Ellis says, and thank you for the $5, Ethan. He says, why is Spencer Cox acting like he's the governor of Massachusetts, sharing his pronouns to the world and all? I might sound dumb. Do I sound dumb? I don't know who Spencer Cox is. I've heard the name. His last name is Cox, which is an interesting last name. I don't know. Who is that? I assume he's some type of political candidate or something. I'm not even sure, but I don't know who that is. But sharing his pronouns to the world, I mean, if he's doing that, that's cringe, obviously. Thoughts on Mitt Romney giving a thumbs up to Judge Jackson? Yeah, not surprising. If I'm being totally honest, what do we expect? But it's like, look, it's ridiculous, quite frankly, because, this woman is the most far left judge in the history of American politics, okay? And in many ways, I would say that, Republicans absolutely have to play hardball with this. I mean, not a single Democrat, okay, not a single Democrat voted for Amy Coney Barrett, if I remember, okay, which maybe in hindsight, you're almost surprised that they didn't, because Amy Coney Barrett actually kind of sucks, but whatever, right? Um, you know, well, what do you expect? But it's not surprising. The Republican Party is suicidal. We're suicidal against ourselves. They suck. Mitt Romney sucks. Is there much more to say? I don't really know. It's to be expected, I suppose. And of course, right, Mitt Romney's going to try to say, well, I'm just being principled about it, right? We're not supposed to be partisan when it comes to judges. Oh, really? Oh, really? We're not supposed to be partisan? Okay. People who think that there's still any degree of honesty left to the system. Well, honestly, I don't think anyone believes there's any degree of honesty left to the system. I believe it's basically like virtue signaling or something. I don't want to use the term virtue signaling, but it's basically like, kind of a facade just for rhetorical purposes. Like, I don't really believe that even the people who talk about the sanctity of our democracy or anything, like if you actually believe these things, you're cringe, but I don't think anyone really believes them. It's more so when we talk about the integrity of the system or whatever, when these people say these things, I think it's more so that they're basically just trying to vanguard the power of the uniparty, keep the populace out of power, keep America first, keep MAGA out of power, whatever it is. But I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure Mitt Romney's going to go up there and say, well, it's my job just to vote on qualifications, right? It's just and I'm not supposed to be partisan. The Supreme Court selection process is not supposed to be partisan. It's like, first of all, it's always going to be partisan. But secondly, oh, really? If it's not supposed to be partisan, then why do we have such a hyper-partisan judge? I mean, this is the most far-left woman who's ever been nominated to the Supreme Court, obviously. She's soft on child pornography. She can't define what a woman is. She supports critical race theory, which comes from critical theory, which is literally a Marxist doctrine. There's nothing else about it. It is a fundamentally Marxist doctrine. There's nothing moderate. There's nothing bipartisan about this judge or about this process, So... And like I said, it's we shouldn't even take that talking point at face value, because what it really is that there's a uniparty that's incredibly corrupt, just basically trying to vanguard power, and they'll use terms like integrity of democracy, bipartisanship. It really is full of nonsense, I would say. Noah Boyd says, make a bumper sticker that says Elon Musk is turning the freaking cars gay. Credit to Thompson Spence. Well, I'm actually working on merch right now. I should have merch maybe Friday or Monday. It's going to be coming next few days. I've shown you guys a lot of the designs we have already, but I will write this down. I will actually unironically write this down. This is going to be one of our merch designs, is Elon Musk is turning the freaking cars gay. Okay. All right. Let me write that down. Okay, thank you very much. thevincedao Nationalist with combustion engine characteristics. It's so true. I don't care if it's a Tesla. Anyone who drives electric cars are unironically cringe. But the paternalist says APU's state legislative efforts will free our fallen brethren from the scourge of deplatforming. It's so true. We don't need Elon Musk. We're going to do it ourselves. Very true. Thank you for the $5. Shout out to the paternalist. Musk has already done more than Ted Cruz writing to Twitter to telling them not to censor people. And this part is very true. This part is true, which is not that, that should be an indictment really on the Republican Party. As much as I'm saying, hold your horses. Let's see what Elon Musk actually does. Let's not go crazy when he hasn't actually freed a single Twitter account. It is very true. Already done more than the GOP, which is very sad because, Joe Biden is president right now, but I think there were many points along the way where the GOP had the power to do something. They could be doing stuff at the state level. They're not. It's very true. So anyways, I will take a sip of water here for effect. But anyways, so, like I said, we'll talk about Viktor Orban in a second. But like I said, on this guy, on Elon Musk, be a little bit cautious, all right? First, let's see who actually gets freed. Let's see who actually gets freed from Twitter. Not to be selfish, not to be narcissistic about it, but if I never get my Twitter reinstated, or I'm not at least not allowed back on Twitter in some capacity, yeah, I'm not gonna, my take on Elon Musk is gonna be vindicated. Yeah, I will be selfish about it. Okay. But anyways, that's Elon Musk. We may revisit it a little bit later in the stream. But the second thing I wanted to talk about before we kind of forget here is actually is, I guess you could say, foreign affairs, but it's the fact that Viktor Orban, Prime Minister Viktor Orban, has been reelected in Hungary. And you should read this article on the APU website. It's actually a very good article. I would argue. I know you guys like my Chronicles argue about my Chronicles article about like the LGBT takeover of American conservatism. I would argue. I personally think this is a better article than that. Okay, people didn't really see it the same way, but anyways, we'll talk about this story. So, on I believe Sunday night, we had the Hungarian elections, and Viktor Orban, who many people obviously know who Viktor Orban is because of Tucker Carlson's interview with him back in 2021. Tucker Carlson visited Hungary, interviewed the prime minister there. Viktor Orban was going into it, and this was basically hyped up to be his toughest re-election battle to date. Okay, and so just for context, if you don't really remember the whole Tucker Carlson saga there, Viktor Orban, like I said earlier in the stream, is basically the model, in many ways, you could say the model like Eastern European national conservative, right? So Viktor Orban, as opposed to the fact where a lot of American conservatism is basically just founded on libertarianism or whatever, Viktor Orban is actually, in many ways, you would argue, kind of a more by the book original conservative in the sense that he is kind of like a pro-family, pro-Christianity, nationalistic type of leader. And, very pro-tradition, obviously. And, that's a true conservative, okay? I know we have a lot of new people on this channel, but that is one of the basic premises of this channel, is like, that is actually what conservatism is all about. But anyways, Viktor Orban is a guy whose, kind of political legacy has been defined. Well, let's just go through kind of the core tenets of his stuff. First and foremost, has been defined. I would say what he's kind of known for the most is actually his pro-family policy, right? He's kind of big on incentivizing the creation of families, whereas American political leaders, and in many ways even a lot of American conservative political leaders, don't believe in the nuclear family. They don't care much to preserve it. They don't believe that families are the bedrock of any type of society. Viktor Orban understands that not just families, but traditional families, that is marriages between a man and a woman. And, he's been very adamant. He's been very big on protecting traditional marriage in Hungary, right? He's been very big on promoting kind of the family unit and the family structure, supporting families in Hungary. That's number one. Number two, he's a nationalist, right? That's his other big thing. He's been restrictionist when it comes to immigration. He's been restrictionist on his border. He actually built his own southern wall. He built his own southern wall to keep out, migrants and illegal migrants and things like that. His immigration policy in Hungary itself is rather restrictionist. So that's number two. He's a nationalist, okay? He's also kind of more of sort of like an isolationist when it comes to foreign policy. Volodymyr, however you say his first name, Zelensky in Ukraine actually was very unhappy that, Viktor Orban would not send troops to defend Ukraine. So that's his other kind of core tenet. And obviously the last thing, he's very pro-Christianity, right? He's been very adamant that Hungary is a Catholic country, takes a stand there. Obviously protects traditional marriage, whereas American political leaders try to say, separation of church and state, we're actually a secular country. He's a pro-Christian leader, okay? So in many ways, Viktor Orban is the model. He's not perfect on everything, right? COVID wasn't great on that, but kind of at his core tenets, right? He is something of a nationalist. You could say something of a populist, although in many ways, I would argue he's not really much of a populist in the sense that he actually sort of does control the political class. He kind of forms the political class in Hungary, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But anyways, as a result, Viktor Orban, as you could expect, really is, he's not on the level of like Vladimir Putin, but in many ways he is an enemy. He's the black sheep of Eastern Europe, you could say, or the black sheep of Europe in general. He is not very liked by obviously America's political leaders and kind of the EU. He's not liked by the UN. He's not liked by the neoliberal kind of global political class, not liked by the globalists, you could say, in many ways, right? Not a fan of these things, as you could imagine. But anyways, Viktor Orban on Sunday night was running into what many hyped up to be his toughest re-election bid yet, right? And so why was this his toughest? Well, the polls were showing it was pretty close. But the main reason is that, so domestically within Hungary, right? Here's a guy who is going up. Again, this is a pro-family national conservative, if you want to call it that, right? This guy was going up against 6 opposition parties. So basically what happened in this Hungarian election, six of the opposition parties to Viktor Orban in the country basically all joined together to create one opposition bloc, right? It was called the United for Hungary Party. They all formed together to make like one opposition bloc against Viktor Orban's party, right? So basically they're going to, abuse the multi-party system to kind of make this coalition take him down. And they utterly failed. I think I actually have the margins written down in this article. But anyways, let's see if I have the numbers written down here. Yes. So despite obviously powerful forces of opposition, Orban's party won 53.7% of the popular vote. It retained its supermajority in parliament, right? So they have a 2/3 majority in the parliament there. Viktor Orban's party does retain that. So despite this being hyped up to be super hard re-election for Viktor Orban, retain that. The opposition party only won 34.4% of the popular vote. It was a landslide, right? Viktor Orban won in a landslide. Now, I argued in many ways this is a good sign for us here in America. This is a good sign for the America First kind of nationalist movement here in America. The right-wing populists, the national conservatives, the kind of Trumpers, right? It's a good thing for us. It's a kind of a good sign that in the West, this stuff is still popular. And in many ways, you could say it's gaining popularity, right? Because Viktor Orban goes into this Hungarian election. It's not looking good for him. He's actually in trouble. And what happens? He sweeps it, right? He absolutely dominates that election and very popular with the people. I argue in many ways that's a good thing. Now, what you're probably saying in response to that is, well, what's really the big deal? Because yes, good for Hungary. And obviously, Hungary is in many ways diverting from the rest of the EU, right? Whereas the rest of the EU is embracing like neoliberal globalism, opening their borders to immigration, secularizing their countries, letting their family units die, just standing by and watching as their birth rates collapse. Hungary's basically doing the opposite. Good for them. But how is that really relevant to America? Well, I'll say I'll say two reasons, right? So the first reason I would say this actually should be seen as, hey, this is objectively good for us. This is something that can actually help us, is the fact that it wasn't just the opposition parties in Hungary, right, that were trying to take down Viktor Orban. Like I said, this guy was an enemy of the globalists on like the world stage, right? And so it's very important to point this out, because going into this election, I'll just say there were concerns, okay? I'm on YouTube. I'm not going to say much more than that. But I will say there were great concerns when it came to foreign interference in this election, we will say, okay? And that's based off the fact that, first of all, obviously this guy is an enemy of America's foreign policy institutions. He's an enemy of the State Department, enemy of the CIA, and an open enemy of Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden has made it clear he does not like Viktor Orban. He's gone out and called him a totalitarian thug, right? I believe that was the language he's used about Viktor Orban in the past. The State Department has actually funded like anti-Orban media over in Hungary, stuff like that, And so, look, I won't say much more than that. Okay, I'm on YouTube. I'm not gonna get too specific, but I will say I think many were concerned. I'm not saying I was, but many were concerned about, CIA, State Department, potentially activity in this election. I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying that many are concerned. And hypothetically, if we were to hypothetically say that it hypothetically did happen, then we would also say that Viktor Orban hypothetically overcame that. Okay, so that's one thing to consider. Number two to consider was the possibility of Ukrainian involvement in the election. Actually, again, look, I'm not going to say that this is proven, but Orban's government, Orban's foreign minister, actually, as a matter of fact, basically blew the whistle that Zelensky and kind of like Ukrainian agents or Ukrainian entities were actually trying to meddle in the election on behalf of the opposition parties. That was the accusation thrown out by Orban's government. Again, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying hypothetically, if this was true, then these are things that Orban overcame in that election, okay? And I will also point out, put Ukraine aside for a second, I'll also point out that kind of CIA interference when it comes to foreign elections and foreign governments and regime change. I mean, that's obviously not without precedent. We know that the CIA has done it a number of times before in history. They've attempted it several more times. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. But what is known, and what we can objectively prove, is number one, the fact that kind of the foreign policy elites, kind of the neoliberal class in America and on the world stage, absolutely has been funding and pushing like anti-Orban propaganda, right? they've been basically labeling this guy as like an authoritarian thug dictator, kind of this despotic Hitler dictator or whatever in Hungary, for a lot of years, and especially after Tucker Carlson visited the country, it really amplified. Viktor Orban is a dictator. He's evil, this, that. They've been pushing kind of, that propaganda very hard. And considering that Hungary actually is, to an extent, like an open and free country, you cannot deny, I'm sure, plenty of American-based or American-motivated anti-Orban propaganda. And from the EU and the rest of that, undeniably made it in. Okay, and we know that, and we know that's something that they definitely push. That's a factor that Orban overcame. And the last factor I think we ought to point out, actually, hold on, let me take another sip of water here. I actually forgot. What was I going to say? I'm sorry, I totally blanked. I believe did I write it? Okay. That was what I was going to say. Yeah. Actually, the last factor is George Soros. Okay. Oh, here comes Soros. No, but it's actually true. Like, it's a known fact that George Soros has been, let's just say, with his money and resources, has been working very hard. He's an open critic of Viktor Orban. He's very opposed to Orban. Has been working very hard for years to oppose Orban, to help his opposition, to get him out of power. Let's just say George Soros was also a factor here. Okay. Soros was fighting very hard to get Orban out in Hungary. That's an objectively known fact, okay, and we know he does very similar things here in America when it comes to certain electoral races. This is what he does. He electioneers. He tries to engineer his own regime basically into power with his money, okay? Anyways, these are all of the factors that basically you could say the establishment, the regime, kind of, I'll call them the neoliberal class, which is not specifically confined to America, but obviously very present in America. The neoliberal class worked very hard, and make no mistake, they did work hard. They absolutely cared about this. They absolutely were involved, worked hard to try to get Orban out of power, and they failed. Okay, and they failed. And I think that should be very optimistic to American conservatives, in the sense that what it shows is that, I would argue in many ways, kind of that neoliberal political class, their influence, I would argue, and their power on the world stage is waning. You can tell it's in decline, because look at all the L's that kind of the neoliberal class has taken, obviously within the past few decades. Afghanistan, Iraq, all these things, all their blunders in the Middle East, all their blunders since the end of the Cold War. The rise of China, obviously, the rise of Russia to an extent, right? Like, you obviously see all the blunders, all the L's that the neoliberals have taken. But especially look at this recently. I mean, look at everything that's happened in the past few years. Within a few seconds, basically, of America withdrawing from Afghanistan, what happens? The Taliban takes over immediately, totally smashing any concept of democracy in Afghanistan that the neoliberals tried to push. And the globalists tried to push, obviously, for 2 decades there. Again, total defeat, total blunder for the neoliberals, total blunder for the globalists there. So that's one thing. Obviously, number two, Putin basically just going in and invading Ukraine. Obviously, these are L's for the neoliberals. These are shots, these are defeats of global neoliberalism. And what you're seeing in many ways is the hegemony of kind of the globalists, the hegemony of that neoliberal political class, of just controlling the world stage and having such a grip on global affairs and world politics, is obviously waning. And I would say in many ways, Viktor Orban, despite our political class working so hard to get this guy out of power, Viktor Orban basically just going in and sweeping that election in landslide, I would argue in many ways that likewise is a total blow to this political class. And I think what you're seeing is the fact that the neoliberals, kind of like our foreign policy establishment, is not really able to enforce their will anymore. Are you seeing this? I mean, look at Afghanistan, look at Ukraine, look at all the stuff in the Middle East, and now look at this. And I'm not saying all these things are necessarily morally equivalent to each other. I'm not saying that Viktor Orban is the Taliban or whatever else, right? I'm not saying that the incidents themselves are comparable. What I'm saying is that they are defeats of the neoliberal political class, right? And so Shane Kina says, single-handedly and without a decent amount of changeover, no, the liberal world order is dead, though. Gen Z is more conservative, and every generation after that will likely move that direction. I don't know if Gen Z is necessarily more conservative, but I definitely think that if there is going to be a generation to restore conservatism, it's not going to be like every Gen Zer, obviously, because a lot of Gen Zers, or a lot of Zoomers, I think is the proper word, are a bunch of idiots. But there is definitely like this epic generation. Us, you and I, we are the small generation, right? Because let's be honest, political movements are not led by majorities. They're actually led by like small, coordinated, smart groups of people. Like elites run everything. The most populist movements, the most, democratic movements, quote unquote, always led, the string is always pulled by some type of elites, right? And that's, absolutely true. But anyways, it will definitely be us. And thank you for the $10, Shane, if that happens. Mark says, personally, I feel that the globalists wanted the Taliban to invade Afghanistan. I absolutely disagree with that. They basically wanted to enforce, pro-LGBT, pro-feminist, liberal democracy in Afghanistan. They tried it very hard. And obviously the Taliban, which, I don't support the Taliban per se, but, obviously they're very like religious, reactionary, and I'm not an Islamist. I'm not a fan of that stuff, but definitely to an extent, right? They're like this reactionary traditionalist, very militant, very austere, like ostensibly more like right-wing faction in the country. Again, I don't support the Taliban. I'm a Christian nationalist. Okay. I'm not an Islamist. I don't support jihad or any of those things, but what they were basically trying to replace that with absolutely was like neoliberal democracy, and it failed. And so I would not say at all that the globalists wanted the Taliban to invade Afghanistan. If that were true, they would have pulled out of Afghanistan while the getting was good, right? It wouldn't have taken them 2 decades to pull out of Afghanistan if they wanted the Taliban to retake it. I don't think that's like an accurate statement. But anyways, getting back to this. What you're certainly seeing is like the power, the hegemony, the influence of our neoliberal political elites is dying out, right? Like they're no longer able to enforce their will. They want to change these regimes. They want to do this stuff, and they're failing. They wanted to stop Viktor Orban in Hungary. They can't do it, right? And so that should be positive to us because, number one, if the kind of neoliberal order on the world stage is dying, it's collapsing, that leaves a power vacuum. And listen, there's no getting around this. We have to replace, as conservatives, as truly like nationalist conservatives, we have to want to see the current world order replaced. There's no fixing it. It's not just like, oh, let's just elect some more conservative people and kind of keep the same kind of power balance on the world stage. That's absolutely can't happen. That's not viable. We have to replace the doctrine of globalism. It has to fall. It has to be brought down, right? Not by our violence, obviously, but it has to be brought down. It has to end. And this is basically the only way it's going to happen, right? You have to watch the neoliberal order slowly crumble. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a power vacuum, right? If the neoliberal political class is no longer able to kind of enforce its hegemony on the world stage, that leaves a power vacuum for Donald Trump and America First in 2024, obviously. It leaves a power vacuum for things like Viktor Orban in Hungary and, and their movement in Poland and stuff like that. It also leaves a power vacuum for things like Nigel Farage in Britain and obviously like Le Pen and Zemmour in France, right? Because you are kind of seeing this become more prominent in the West, become more prominent in Europe. That leaves a power vacuum behind. And if the neoliberal kind of political order is no longer able to keep us out of power, because think about it, right? If our political class can't stop what happened in Afghanistan or Ukraine, and they obviously can't stop Viktor Orban from getting reelected by a huge landslide, that inevitably is going to mean over time when it comes to our America First movement here in America, right? Over time, we too, I think, will become a force that they will be unable to stop. Because obviously we're gaining ground, we're gaining traction, but at the same time, the neoliberal global order, the neoliberal political elites, they are becoming weaker. They're becoming less competent actually at their job. And obviously they're very desperate. So as they get more desperate, they're going to keep throwing stuff at the wall. They're going to become harsher. They're going to try to use more extreme methods. But ultimately, you see where this is going. Their power, their competence, their influence really is starting to slip. It's starting to collapse. You're seeing that happen on the world stage 100%. You're kind of seeing it happen in many ways in America too, right? I would say in many ways, over time, they will be unable to stop us. They will be unable to stop like the America First conservative movement from really taking power. That's number one. So that's number one reason why I say this matters. It matters because the reason why Viktor Orban's election matters so much is precisely because of the fact that they actually tried so hard. Our State Department, our CIA, our political elites tried very, very hard to stop this, to stop Viktor Orban from getting reelected, and they failed. And that tells you that their power, their influence is waning. It absolutely is. So that's number one. Number two, the other thing I would say, and the other reason I think this matters is because, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there is absolutely some extent of like relationship between what happens in the rest of Europe and what happens here in America, right? There absolutely is a relationship there. For instance, you have 2016. Okay, obviously 2016, the election of Donald Trump, kind of the vindication of, that nationalist wave, the national populist wave that kind of rose to prominence in America. Well, 2016, that people forget this. That summer, what happened in England? Brexit happened in England. Obviously, England leaving the European Union, embracing nationalism. Nigel Farage was his big political leader, right? In many ways, you could argue that I would say that the same political forces motivated Brexit that motivated the election of Donald Trump. Absolutely. And no one would deny that. At the same time, that kind of political era saw what? In France, for instance, we saw Marine Le Pen, right? And now you have Zemmour, who's better than Le Pen, but kind of the start of the nationalistic French conservative. Out of the Trumpian wave, you saw like Bolsonaro down in Brazil, obviously, or Hungary and Poland. They already had it going before, but it really strengthened there, right? There's absolutely this two-way street relationship. And I would argue the reason that is because the West is not totally separated from one another. Like, we feel the same sentiments. We're watching the same news. We feel the same sentiments. We have many of the same issues to deal with. And so, like, yeah, English politics and American politics might not be the same, but I would argue, in many ways, these same sentiments are felt across the greater West, right? There's a connection here. It doesn't mean everything, but I would argue in many ways, if, for instance, Zemmour in France is kind of rising to power, if, for instance, Viktor Orban in Hungary is getting reelected, I would argue in many ways that will mean, and that kind of will translate to kind of a political movement here in America. If you have the truckers up in Canada, actually, we already saw this happen. The truckers up in Canada, do you think it's a coincidence that they lifted most of the COVID restrictions during the Canadian trucker protests? Like, I think our elites knew, like, that was about to happen here in America. It was about 2 seconds away from happening if they did not let up. It's like there absolutely is a relationship between what happens across the rest of the Western world and here. And that's not me trying to be a globalist. I'm not trying to say any of that. I'm just saying that if you see nationalism rising in Europe and other parts of the Western sphere, it's a pretty safe bet that at least to some degree you'll see nationalism rise to power in America here too. And we've seen that happen. We saw kind of the 2016 wave with not just America, but with other Western countries as well. If we're starting to see kind of this 2022 wave with Zemmour in France, with Orban in Hungary, I would argue in many ways, maybe it is something of the start of kind of a second wave of nationalism. Hopefully we'll actually keep it this time. Hopefully we'll really, stay firm there. So Mike V says there's a trucker convoy in America right now. It's just not as big as the one covered in Canada. Well, again, I support this obviously, by the way, but part of that reason is because they lifted most of the restrictions. Still have to wear a mask on airplanes, which is annoying. And it's like, actually on that topic, it's ridiculous actually, because England, for instance, and we know that Britain are way more of like, way stricter on this issue than America is. England generally is just more liberal than us, whatever. England doesn't have a transportation mask mandate. So you can fly on an international flight on British Airways or whatever from New York to England, and you don't have to wear a mask. But you fly from England to America, you have to wear a mask. It's ridiculous. We're stricter on this than Britain is. But anyways, on that topic, I have to speak actually next Friday. If you live in Georgia, if you live in the Atlanta area, I'll be speaking at Emory University, okay, in Atlanta. Emory University next Friday. Anyways, so obviously I live up here in Florida, and I would prefer to just fly. I'd prefer to just fly to Atlanta that day. It'll be much easier, but the mask mandate is still in place when it comes to transportation, and it's like, I'm sorry. I part of me, and I asked my parents. I was like, because I just call my parents here and there. I should call them more, but I call my parents. I'm like, do you think I should just drive or fly? Because it's like a 5 to 6 hour drive, or it's just like an hour and a half flight. What do you think I should do? And they're like, what do you do? What are you talking about? Of course you should just fly. Like, but I was like, but I have to wear a mask. Like, I don't think I'm going to do that. I unironically am going to drive from Florida to Atlanta, Georgia. I don't even care. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing because I'm not. If I have the choice, which I absolutely do, it's not convenient. It's going to take a huge deal out of my time, but I'm not coping for these people anymore, and so they leave that on the plane. I'm not going to do it. But anyways, But with that said, that was a total tangent. With that said, I think probably the main reason why you see most the trucker convoy in America not getting the same coverage is obviously because it's most of the restrictions were lifted, and so they've kind of just backed off on that and stuff. So Bryson Gray and his parents just got swatted. Okay, what the heck? Did that? No way. Wow. That's disgusting, obviously. I hope everyone's okay. I hope that, I'm sure they're fine, but that's disgusting. That's disgusting. We stand with Bryson Gray. Very sad. But anyways, so that's Hungary. Someone says I didn't realize you were streaming today. Yeah, I know I haven't streamed in a while, so that might be part of it. But YouTube doesn't always set out put out the announcements for these streams in a timely manner. It's very true. It's very true. So go buy the car. It's more fun. No, I know. I don't know. I don't really have. I'll make the time. I don't really have the time to do it, but it is very fun. It is fun. I love driving, like taking road trips, driving through America and stuff like that. I have a rental car right now anyway because some woman totally rear-ended my car in a parking lot. Okay, so you know how usually you get like these dings in parking lots, scratches it, no big deal. Okay. And understandably, it's definitely a coincidence here, but it was a female driver. But anyways, I come out to my car. All right, I'll just tell a story, okay? And we'll go to Q&A or whatever. We'll have fun, because I'm kind of done with the news here. But just on this topic, I went out to my car the other night, and it was dark. It's very dark in my apartment complex, so I didn't really see it at first. I turn on my car. I'm about to back out. I'm looking at the backup cam, and it's like broken. It's like twisted down in the back. I'm like, what the heck happened here? So I go out to look, and my car is totally smashed from the back, like just totally rear-ended, like the trunk is like coming off. Basically, it's terrible. Okay, and I'm in a parking lot. I was parked in a parking space. I'm like, how in the heck does this happen? Because people have scratched my car before, like it happens. How this thing is smashed. Like the trunk of my car is smashed. Okay, and I'm in a parking lot, and I'm like, how do you rear-end someone that bad in a parking lot? Not even on the road or whatever. In a parking lot, and I wasn't even parked in like a super vicarious space or whatever. Totally like smashed into my car. All right. And I was pissed. I go to look at the dashboard. At least she left a note. Okay, so good for her. She better have left a note, because it's one thing to like drive off. When you scratch someone's car, it's no big deal. This is like $10,000 worth of damage, somewhere around there. They have to replace the whole trunk. My car is at some small town auto shop in North Florida right now, getting its whole trunk replaced. They said it's going to take like a month. Okay, but totally smashed the back of my car in a parking lot. How do you do that? How are you driving that fast in a parking lot that you totally like just destroy someone's trunk? When I wasn't even parked in like a super like cramped space or whatever. It's a miracle. It's actually miraculous. It's like, I know she's a woman driver or whatever. I didn't even know that was possible for female drivers to do. But anyways, with that said, I do have a rental car right now, which means the miles, are up. I can put as many miles on that thing as I want. So maybe we should actually just take the road trip. So anyways, it's okay, Shane. Okay, yeah, I see what you're seeing. I see what you're saying here, Shane. But that was that analogy really necessary? Was that the necessary? I don't know. I'm not going to read that on YouTube. Okay, I'm not going to read that on YouTube. But it is an accurate analogy, I will say. But you kind of fed posting a little bit on YouTube. But it's definitely true. It's definitely true. Can't believe Elon Musk used his microchip woman bots to crash Vince's car. It's very true, dude. I'm telling you, ever since I made the Elon Musk video, bad things have been happening to me. It's very true. Right after I get sick, okay, I got sick right after making that video. So that was interesting. I was like, huh, why did I get sick after making an Elon Musk video? Very interesting. But I was like, okay, whatever. 2 weeks later, my car totally got smashed, okay? And then with my rental car today, the battery wouldn't start, okay? Which honestly, okay, I think that one's my fault because I think I left the headlights or something on. It's an older car. My car, like, it'll automatically shut off, so I'm used to just like being able to leave stuff on in the car and it turns off. And so I think that was just my fault or whatever. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe Elon Musk, my battery wouldn't start. Okay, my car wouldn't start. I had to have someone help jumpstart my car. I had to buy. I didn't even have the cables. I had to buy the cables, jumpstart the car today. But it's just interesting. Like, I feel like people have been trying. Something has been out there to sabotage me ever since Elon Musk. I made the video about Elon Musk. It's very interesting stuff. The curse of Tesla. It's very true. It's very true. Elon Musk has cast a transhumanist spell on me. Sam Henry became a member. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for becoming a member. Sam, by the way, all the members, I have not sent it out yet because I expected some more people might want it. I will be sending you guys free merch, okay? If you're a level 2 member, you get a free sticker. If you're a level 3 member, I'll be sending you a t-shirt. I have on the members tab, go scroll down. I think you just scroll down like a post or two. Just, if you're a member, the information is on there in terms of how to get your in terms of how to get your free merch. Go check that out. You'll be getting a free t-shirt level 3, free sticker level 2. What is it with conservative e-boys and women drivers? Well, does anyone from your church or school watch the channel? Some people, yeah. I don't know if they're always watching, but I do have people, like, I know a person in real life who are subscribed to the channel. I don't know if they're watching. Sometimes they do. So if you're watching in the chat, shout out to you. Shout out to my IRL fans. It's true. My IRL viewers. Shout out to you guys. Elon Musk kicked Vince off of Twitter. It's so true. He already knew. He already knew I was going to make the video before I made it. But what is it with? And this is true too, because didn't John? I'm pretty sure John has gotten hit like multiple times by like women drivers. That's first and foremost. The APU president, okay, Shank, he has gotten rear-ended by women drivers in where he lives multiple times. I don't know. They're out to. Honestly, the conspiracy theorists' take is that they're assassination attempts. I mean, I'm not saying that's necessarily true. I'm just suggesting, hey, it's very interesting. Why are women drivers particularly always hitting the conservative e-boys? It's very interesting stuff. So anyways, the hoodie guy says, do you think Elon will reinstate banned accounts? See, this is something to keep in mind, and I said this earlier on the stream. What is the point of Elon Musk making better guidelines if they only... Because generally, the rule on social media, which I guess you could say makes sense to an extent, but the rule on social media is if you get banned, you can't come back and make a new account, right? Even if Elon Musk loosens the speech codes a little bit, hey, hate speech, we're not going to be so rough about that. COVID election stuff, you can actually talk about this stuff on Twitter. You can actually be honest about LGBT issues. We're not going to ban your Twitter account, this and that. What's the point of that if the people who got banned for that stuff to begin with don't even get to enjoy it? And so I think this is a tall ask. Now, do I think it's realistically the most likely thing? I don't know. It's like, I could see it happening, absolutely, that Elon Musk fixes up Twitter a little bit, but all of us who got banned on Twitter, Donald Trump included, we're still not allowed back on. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't think it's the most likely thing that's going to happen. If it does happen, I'll be grateful. I sure hope it happens. If I'm being totally honest, I don't think it's the most likely that he will do it. I may be wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I could absolutely see it happening where Elon Musk does some minor fixes to Twitter's speech codes, but doesn't let them apply to like banned accounts. And so that's definitely something to keep into account. Zion says, and look at this. I'm getting a stuffy nose. Okay. I'm getting a stuffy nose on stream. I don't know what's happening. Every time I talk about Elon Musk, things happen to me. Vince, are you Sicilian? Yes, I am. If I'm not mistaken, that is where my Italian side comes from. It's from Sicily. So anyways, I need to blow my nose because it's actually getting like stuffy here. Very odd. Very odd. So let's look at other chats though here for a second. Vince infected Vince. Elon Musk, I mean, infected Vince. Elon Musk infected Vince with nanobots. Yeah, no, maybe they are. Like, you remember that thing in Star Wars, was it Episode 2, where like they're trying to assassinate Padme with freaking robot things. That's what Elon Musk is doing to me. It's true. It's very real. It's absolutely happening. So, anyways, Mark says, sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm actually getting a very stuffy nose here. Okay. Remember when Mitt Romney got heckled by his constituents in an airport? Do you believe regular people know he's the enemy? I mean, I think most conservatives out there I'd say about 70 to 80% of the conservative base despises him. Probably more than that, if I'm being honest. I think he's universally hated in many aspects. But with that said, come 2024, assuming he doesn't just retire, which he's pretty old, he might just retire. But if he is seeking re-election in 2024, I would caution that despite being very unpopular with the base, I think that he may be a lot harder to unseat than we think he is, because he obviously has the backing of the Utah GOP, the Mormon voters. And look, I like Mormons. I think in many ways they have a lot of like good political tendencies. But when it comes to like voting in Utah, they basically just go vote for the Mormon political machine. It reminds me a lot of like Tammany Hall, like back in the day with the Catholics or whatever. There's just this political machine. Mitt Romney's a part of that. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of like those voters there, and it's just a weird state, actually end up voting for him. Like I said, he'll have the backing of the Utah GOP. Will someone truly viable come along to replace Mitt Romney? I don't know. And so, yes, Mitt Romney, I think most conservatives don't like him, but will he be as easy to unseat as we think? I don't think necessarily so, especially when you consider, I bet you next year Mitt Romney will do a lot of if he's running for re-election, I bet you next year Mitt Romney will do a lot of good things. He might do like this one thing that everyone's like, wow, I'm actually shocked Mitt Romney did that. Like, good for Mitt Romney, right? He might do some stuff, I would argue, probably very likely. He'll do a lot of stuff to save face. He has the Utah GOP on his side, obviously. And that's not to say I don't think he can be unseated. I definitely think it's probably more likely than not he won't get reelected if he tries to run again. But I think it's probably going to be a lot harder than a lot of people realize to get rid of Mitt Romney and get rid of a lot of these establishment Republicans. I mean, look at Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. They were terrible. Some people were trying to sound the alarm on how terrible these people were, to begin with. Yet, look what happened in 2020. They both got reelected. Now they're going to be stuck there till 2026. And Mitch McConnell might just retire. Come 2026, is Lindsey Graham, going to be actually ousted from power? I doubt it. I don't know. Maybe, if Trump wins again and actually remembers that Lindsey Graham sucks, maybe he can successfully mount a primary challenge there. But honestly, who knows, So Trump endorsed Mitt Romney in 2018. It's true. Kai should run against Mitt Romney. Kai, I think, is probably the only good like Utah Republican, or he's not a Republican, but Utah conservative I can think of. Is he old enough to run for Senate? I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I don't know if there's an age rule. Maybe I'm dumb for saying that. Is there an age restriction for senators? I forget. I'm sorry. I just failed civics just now. But other than that, other than Kai Clips, who else can you think of in the Utah GOP that can maybe like mount a viable primary challenge to Mitt Romney as of now? What do you do? The governor of Utah, he's a rhino. He's like vetoed big tech stuff. He vetoed transgenderism stuff. So he sucks. Mike Lee is there. He's better than Romney, but he's not that good either. He's also a shill for big tech. What is it with the Utah GOP and shilling for big tech and just being socially liberal and just being terrible? All of them to the core, so hopefully, I don't know. Maybe Kyle Whittingham. Kyle Whittingham will. I don't even know if he's based though. I'm just throwing out names because I really don't know who out there who would, run in Utah. I guess so. What's his name? Burgess Owens. That guy. What happened to that guy? Isn't he from Utah? I don't know if I even necessarily trust him 100%, but he'd definitely be better than these other people. So, think they're going to be classics in Utah? Oh, absolutely. Will they succeed? I don't know. See, if there is someone actually like viable if there's someone actually of significance and like Trump endorsed all that, then it's not going to succeed. But if you kind of have this open field, I guess to an extent you could argue the Ohio Senate race is having this problem because Josh Mandel, that guy's absolutely like a rendition of Kim Klacik. Like he's just a conservative grifter or whatever, right? He's just grifting off MAGA. No principles. He'd be terrible in office, but he's just like grifting off the MAGA wave or whatever, right? If it's kind of like an open field, there absolutely will be Klasiks, and you have to be very worried about that. And so what I would hope is someone who's serious, someone who's like viable, it's not just kind of like this jungle race or whatever of what jungle primary, I think is the term. You really you really hope that that's what ends up happening in Utah. I don't know. But if it stays the way it is right now, where there's like no one viable, yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of like grifters in that race, and it's just going to be a mess. It's not going to be very fun. So all the potheads from Colorado are invading Utah. Well, that's not good. A lot of Californians are moving there too. I noticed, like, I'm from LA, obviously. I remember a lot of people from LA are like moving out to like Salt Lake City and stuff. And Salt Lake City is kind of like a tech giant place nowadays. So it's true. So the hoodie guy says, how do you think the midterm elections are going to turn out? I mean, I think Republicans will win. Pretty convincingly. I definitely think it's going to be like something of a red wave. I think that's inevitable at this point. Joe Biden's approval, like they're very easy keys to tell. Joe Biden's approval ratings in the dumpster fire. Democrats are in a dumpster fire. The economy's terrible. Inflation. I think in many ways, you notice even kind of like the Ukraine stuff is being memory hold a little bit. I think that in many ways, they kind of just saw that as like the last attempt. Maybe to boost Biden's approval rating, use a crisis, accuse Republicans of being, pro-Putin or whatever. It didn't work because, yeah, Biden got a little Ukraine bump. He's actually lower now, I think. And so that didn't work. I don't think they're going to really succeed at anything. I think it'll be a red wave. Now, of course, the question is it actually going to be a red wave full of good Republicans? And honestly, I have my concerns. I have my doubts because there are a lot of like good candidates this cycle. I think there definitely are. We've talked about them. We've identified them. But there's a lot of just incumbent Republicans that aren't that good and really are very weak. They're just going to get reelected just fine. That's concern number one. Concern number two, I think even where you do have some good America First primary challenges, I don't know that they're all running the best campaigns. I don't know that they're all necessarily getting the best traction. And so I think the midterms will be undeniably a success for Republicans, and I think that's basically guaranteed. Honestly, I'm a little bit black-pilled on terms of whether or not, we're actually going to get good conservatives out of these midterms, which we're definitely going to get a few. Anthony Sabatini is on track, basically guaranteed to win, and he's great. You have, but besides that, I mean, who really do we have? Like, who are the people who are really going to ride to power and we're like, they're going to be great besides the people we already have, right? Like we already have Ron DeSantis, he's a good governor. We already have, people like Paul Gosar, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. Okay, we have those people. They're solid or whatever, right? Carrie Lake. I guess Carrie Lake is kind of the one. She's basically almost guaranteed to win too. Carrie Lake's and she's solid, okay? But besides that, look at a lot of the other people that like our circles want to win and we're trying to get behind, and they're struggling, Blake Masters. I like Blake Masters. He's struggling, though. I mean, he is. Hopefully he gets the Trump endorsement ever, but his campaign's kind of struggling. I hope he wins. I do, Same thing with like J.D. Vance, for instance. He's the best candidate left in that race. I would definitely say, but like he's struggling. I think I've heard in some places he's in first place or whatever, but he's not like guaranteed to win or whatever. And I think people still have questions about him. I think generally he would be a decent senator, but if he's like kind of all that America First has to offer or whatever, like he's not on track necessarily guaranteed to win. There's a lot of other people too. Like Mike Crispy. I love Mike Crispy. I hope he wins. But he's running up against the very powerful like establishment Republican political machine there. It's just like I am optimistic that the GOP will win, but that's obviously not what we need. We need a mass purge of this party. To an extent, I believe it's too late in many ways because I think there's a lot of Republicans out there that is like, it didn't even happen. Nobody even tried. It's kind of blackpilling to see. But even to the extent to which we do have like AF, like national conservative style people running for office as these new people, right? We're going to retain the MAGA caucus. I mean, that's undeniable. But like these new people we see running, a lot of these candidates are struggling. They're not all necessarily guaranteed to win. It's kind of blackpilling. I'm not. It's sad. Let's hope to maximize it. The primaries really haven't happened yet, but it's kind of a little bit blackpilling, to watch. So, Masters and Vance have the momentum. Shout out Red Eagle. But that's true. That's true. They're definitely gaining ground, right? Vance especially. Hopefully, I haven't followed Masters' campaign the last few months, but I know he's been a little bit underwhelming there. But let's hope he does that. I mean, look at like Mo Brooks, for instance. I think there's a perfect example. Would have gotten a great senator there. Now he's not going to win. He's not, and he ran a terrible campaign. Trump withdrew his endorsement. I kind of disagreed with that, but he ran a terrible campaign. That's undeniably true. It kind of is blackpilling to me to an extent, the ways that solid candidates kind of squander their opportunities, didn't run great campaigns or whatever. So which rhinos do you see getting primaried? I'm hearing like Murkowski, probably that's going to be like a guaranteed thing. Some of these impeachment Republicans, I think, are probably the case. But, at the same time, I'm sure like Brian Kemp probably or whatever. But to an extent, I think a lot of these primary challenges that we wish we could have seen are probably not going to happen, which is not nice. We haven't had a poll out of Ohio since before the debates, which Vance dominated. Oh, yeah. Well, the debates were an optical disaster for the rest of the Ohio candidates. Josh Mandel, this guy, he just tries to start a fight with Mike Gibbons right there on the stage, which was awful. And, Gibbons, who I think was kind of I believe he was generally in first place before. He did not have a great debate performance. Sorry. Oh, I'm like so nasally right now. I can't even speak. But Gibbons had a terrible debate performance. He kind of exposed himself in some ways. Like, I believe, I'm not mistaken, he refused to support a federal ban on CRT, which was not a good look. Vance definitely won that debate, and so we'll see what goes from there. But I think Gibbons is not as kind of great. I think a lot of people are realizing that as people thought, and so we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens there. But anyways, Vince sounds sick, but what's up? I am sick. I am very nasally, which is why I can't speak. I can't think. It's very difficult, but we're going to make it through. We're going to make it through. It's true. So okay. The midterms might just mean nothing. Oh, wait. Okay. The midterms might just mean nothing if more of the Great Reset stuff keep on moving forward like they are. Again, yeah, Republicans are going to win. I'm a little bit blackpilled in terms of think about following the inauguration and how we watched so many Republicans backstab Trump or whatever. This whole base vowed we're going to get all these people out of office. And then like a year later, and to an extent, I guess it's kind of blackpilling. It shows you how easily our base can get manipulated sometimes. A year later, I feel like in many ways, that kind of like America First primary energy is largely dead in a lot of ways. Like, yes, a lot of people are still like, oh, rhinos are a problem. Nobody's really serious about voting rhinos out of office, and it's very true. So it's kind of sad to watch. So anyways, we're gonna go to the Q&A section of this stream right now, and so I'll like cut off. If you're watching on the replay, I'm gonna cut it off right here. Put the full stream up on members. So anyways, guys, if you're watching on the replay, I'm gonna end it right here. Again, consider becoming a member to watch. We'll do Q&A. We'll just hang out here. We'll have fun. But if not, I'm gonna cut right now to the end of the stream, and I'll see you guys later. But I will finish in tradition by reading from the prayer journal, as we always do. Do we have a psalm in here? All right, here's one. This one comes from Psalm 95, 1-7. It's called Sing for Joy. Father, come, let us sing for joy to the Lord. Let us shout aloud to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song. For the Lord is the great God, the great King above all gods. In his hand are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, for he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the flock under his care. Amen. The forces of darkness in the middle of our song. Wow, they're not gonna stop us. God, that really had to happen in the middle. Screw off, Satan. Wait. No, you will not. You will not. The power of Christ compels you. Stop messing with the stream. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Okay. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a good night. God bless. Alpha moves only. See you guys later, and peace.
In leaving it, I do so with this prayer. May God's grace be with you in all the days ahead.
He is a globalist, and we are nationalists. He believes in some Pax Universalis. We believe in the old republic. He would put America's wealth and power at the service of some vague new world order. We will put America first. So today we call for a new patriotism, where Americans begin to put the needs of Americans first. For a new nationalism, where in every negotiation, be it arms control or trade, the American side seeks advantage and victory for the United States. And the people of this country need to recapture our capital city of Washington from lobbyists and registered agents of foreign powers who are hired to look out for everybody and everything except the national interest of the United States. And our Western heritage is going to be handed down to future generations and not dumped onto some landfill called multiculturalism.
That just happened. I'm actually in shock that just happened. Yes, this is a post-stream scene, and that actually tops all incidents. 4-5, maybe actually isn't it 4-6 because of what, I don't know, but wow, demonic forces messed with my computer. Like actually, it's actually shocking. Okay. Anyways, good night, guys.